Tap into the psychology of engagement and more. This is where we talk about life, learning, and everything in between. This is the Lifelong Podcast, a show for those of you who love to ask why. It's because we're marketers. It's because we're coaches. It's because we're change makers. Each week, we dive into the big questions and explore the psychology of engagement with strategies, tactics, and special guests along the way. Now, here's your guide, the visibility hacking queen herself, Coach Molly. Hey, visibility hackers, and welcome back to this episode of the Lifelong Podcast. I'm your host, Coach Molly from visibilityhacking.com, and as usual, it's an absolute pleasure to spend this time with you guys today. This season on the Lifelong Podcast, we are diving into the psychology of engagement. And today, specifically, we are talking about project-based learning, which is, I think, revolutionary. It's what is literally going to change the world if more of us as course designers, as digital marketers, as teachers or instructors of any kind of activity, from basketball classes to computer coding and everything in between, if we take on this idea of project-based learning, I honestly think that we are going to revolutionize the world. We are going to change not only the way that we do business, but the way that the world runs overall. And I think that's super powerful. And it's actually really easy to accomplish. It takes a lot of work off of our hands as course designers, as instructors, as coaches, as teachers, and it puts a lot more impact into what the students are actually able to accomplish. And this works for students who are children. It works for students who are teenagers. It works for students who are adults. It works for people in the workplace. It works for entrepreneurs. It especially works for entrepreneurs. Let me just put that out there. So project-based learning, let's just dive in and let's just talk about it, right? It's a teaching method in which students learn by engaging in real-world activities, things that are meaningful to them and their lives, projects that are actually going to make a difference to them or to the community in which they find themselves, the world at large. So there's 4 different things that you need to keep in check when you're engaging in project-based learning. There's 4 different pieces of the puzzle that need to be nurtured and need to be focused on. And that first thing is the problem itself. There needs to be some kind of problem or challenge, something that needs to be overcome. So this can be in the terms of say you're working with entrepreneurs and you're teaching them how to get more engagement in their YouTube content. So the problem is they don't have enough engagement on their YouTube content. There needs to be some kind of actual pain point, some kind of a problem. If you're a life coach, maybe the problem is they're having indecision about some kind of big life event. So the problem is they're being indecisive. You need to have that kind of roadblock, something that causes discomfort. In a community-based project, that discomfort could be in relation to, let's say you're a local business and you look around and you say, wow, our community is not connected. I, as a business owner, I really don't feel like I'm making a difference in my community. So that's the problem. The next thing that we need when we're creating project-based learning experiences is actual knowledge and skill. And this is where you come in as a course designer, as a coach, as a consultant. This is where you have the expertise. So this is where we actually have to share with them the knowledge that they need to overcome that identified problem. Right? So if you're trying to help people increase their YouTube views, well, you need to actually teach them what they need to do. Do you have formulas and frameworks that your students can follow that they can apply to whatever project they're working on? So we always in any project-based learning environment, we have a problem that needs to be overcome, and we have information or knowledge that we either currently have, and we have knowledge that we need to already have. A really great project-based learning mode or model would be identify the problem, Identify the information that you currently have that can help you solve that problem, and then identify questions that you have about knowledge that you might not already have. That group of information will be what you as a coach need to help teach your people. And it allows them to have that autonomy that we always talk about, that this is my unique experience through the course that's going to be different than someone else. Someone else looking for more conversions on their YouTube page, you might have someone in that course who doesn't have a YouTube page at all, right? They're starting from zero. And you might also have someone that gets maybe 300 views per view, but they're looking to really amplify that. They're at two different levels of experience. Two different experiences are required through that course then. And we do that by identifying what our student already knows and identifying where their gaps in information are, so that we as the coach or the teacher can actually fill that gap for them. The next thing we need is resources. So again, we can go through that same process we did previously by identifying, or having the students identify, what resources do they have currently at their fingertips that would allow them to overcome this problem, and what resources would they need. Following from that, from the resources that you need, who are the people who can get you those resources? That's about having the resource of a team structure behind you. So looking at project-based learning places your students' learning experience within a wider community, not just the community that's being impacted, but also the community that's nurturing your student as well. So do they have a kick-ass support system behind them? Do they have local connections of other business owners that they can bring on to be part of this larger project as well? It places them within that community experience. And the last thing that we need is an actual solution to the problem that we've identified. And we do that by looking at the problem, creating that list of what we already know, what we need to know, going out and learning what we need to know, identifying the resources that we can use at our fingertips, identifying the resources we need to get, who can help us get there, and then making that actually happen, taking that action step. And then from all of that, we can go, all right, how do we actually overcome this? What is the actual solution we're going to put forth? A great example of this, I'm sure I've used this before, is Apollo 13. When you have a square air filter that needs to fit into a circular hole, you're in space, you don't have unlimited resources, and they literally dump all of these things onto a table in mission control, and they say, all right, this is the problem we have to do. We've identified the skills and the resources we have in front of us, and now we actually have to use these tools to create a solution. If we don't think about the rest of the project-based learning cycle and we just throw our students in and go, all right, what's the solution? They're not actually going to be learning anything. That's when you just have experts talking to each other. And even experts will go through this same project learning model, because it's not just about learning. This is a problem-solving model. This is a way that you can teach your students not just your frameworks and how to achieve that tangible result that your program gives them, but you're also able to give them a skill that they can use for any project they're working on. Using this kind of model is going to revolutionize not only your programs, but it's going to revolutionize the way that people look at problem solving. We can actually look at them and instead of going, whoa, that's a lot, that's a big challenge, oh my goodness, what am I going to do? And instead we can look at it and go, oh, this is awesome. I'm so excited to dive into this complex problem. Let's identify the problems. Let's look at what we know. Let's look at what we need to know. Let's look at what resources we have available, what we need, and who can help us get those. And then finally, we can have all of our pieces in front of us and create these awesome solutions. We continue that cycle over and over and over again, and we are going to change everything. Guys, that's all I got for this episode. I love project-based learning. I hope you fall in love with it as well. I will see you in our next episode. Make sure you subscribe. If you are loving what we are putting down in this season of the Lifelong Podcast, where we dive into the psychology of engagement, then I highly recommend you share this with someone you think would enjoy this episode as well. We're available on all of your favorite podcast platforms, and if you prefer video content, you can find us on our YouTube page as well. Oh, so excited, my friends. So until I see you again, remember, I love you. And be excellent to each other.